For years, globalization felt like an unstoppable force. Companies built supply chains across continents. Manufacturing moved to wherever costs were lowest. And the idea of Made in America slowly became less common in many industries. But now, something is shifting. Quietly at first, and then all at once. The United States is making a serious push to bring manufacturing back home. Not just in one industry, not just for political messaging, but across critical sectors like semiconductors, batteries, energy, and advanced technology. And the scale of this push is much bigger than most people realize. So the real question is, why is this happening now? Because this isn't just about jobs, it's about control, resilience, and the future of economic power. To understand this shift, you have to look at what went wrong with the old system. Global supply chains were designed for efficiency. Companies spread production across the world to reduce costs. Raw materials from one region, manufacturing in another, assembly somewhere else. It worked incredibly well until it didn't. Events over the past few years exposed a major weakness. When supply chains break, everything stops. Delays ripple across industries. Shortages appear almost overnight. Prices rise, and companies realize they don't actually control their own production. That realization changed how governments think. Because relying too heavily on external supply chains for critical industries is not just a business risk, it's a national risk. And that's where the Made in America push begins. Now let's talk about what makes this different from past efforts. This is not just about bringing back traditional manufacturing jobs. This is about building the industries of the future, domestically. Semiconductors, electric vehicle batteries, renewable energy systems, advanced materials, AI infrastructure. These are not low-value industries. They are the foundation of modern economies. And whoever controls them holds a significant advantage. That's why the US government is investing billions of dollars into these sectors. Subsidies, tax incentives, infrastructure funding, all designed to encourage companies to build and expand within the country. But here's the key point. This isn't just government-driven. Companies are on board too, because they've learned the same lesson. Reliance on global supply chains can be risky. Geopolitical tensions, trade restrictions, logistical disruptions. All of these factors can impact production. So instead of optimizing purely for cost, companies are starting to optimize for stability. And that often means bringing production closer to home. Now here's where things get interesting. Building in America is not cheap. Labor costs are higher. Regulations can be stricter. And setting up new facilities takes time and investment. So why are companies still doing it? Because the equation has changed. When you factor in supply chain risks, delays, and uncertainty, the lowest cost option is not always the best option. Reliability has value, speed has value, control has value. And for many companies, those factors now outweigh the cost difference. Now let's talk about technology. Modern manufacturing is not the same as it used to be. Automation, robotics, and AI are transforming how factories operate. That reduces the importance of cheap labor and increases the importance of technology, efficiency, and proximity. So instead of massive workforces, you have highly automated facilities, highly skilled workers, advanced systems that can produce more with fewer people. And that makes domestic manufacturing more viable because the cost gap between regions starts to shrink. Now think about the long-term impact. If the US successfully builds strong domestic industries in areas like semiconductors and batteries, it reduces dependence on other countries. That improves resilience, It strengthens national security, and it creates a more stable economic foundation. But it also changes global dynamics, because other countries are doing the same thing. Europe is investing in its own industries. China has been building domestic capacity for years, and now the US is accelerating its efforts. This is not just a trend, it's a shift toward regionalization. Instead of one global system, you start to see multiple regional systems, each trying to be more self-sufficient. And that has big implications for trade, competition, and innovation. Now let's talk about jobs, because this is often part of the conversation. Will this create more jobs? The answer is yes, but not in the way people expect. These new factories are not labor-intensive in the traditional sense. They require fewer workers, but more skilled workers, engineers, technicians, specialists. So the opportunity shifts. It's less about quantity of jobs and more about quality and skill level. And that creates both opportunity and challenge, because it requires investment in education, training, and workforce development. Now here's another important angle. This push is not just about building new facilities. It's about building entire ecosystems, supply chains, research centers, support industries, because a factory alone is not enough. You need suppliers, logistics, talent, and infrastructure around it. And building that ecosystem takes time. But once it's established, it becomes very powerful because it attracts more investment, more companies, more innovation, and that creates momentum. Now let's zoom out. Why is this push bigger than it looks? Because it's not just about manufacturing, it's about a fundamental shift in how economies operate, from global efficiency to strategic resilience, from lowest cost to long-term stability, from dependence to control. And those are big changes. Changes that don't just affect companies, but entire industries and global relationships. Now, does this mean globalization is ending? Not at all. Global trade will continue. Supply chains will still span countries, but they will look different, more diversified, more localized, less concentrated in a few regions. And that makes the system more resilient, but also more complex. So when people talk about the Made in America push, it's easy to think of it as a political slogan or a short-term trend. But it's much more than that. It's a strategic shift, a long-term investment in the future, and a response to lessons learned the hard way. Because in a world where technology, energy, and supply chains are deeply connected, control matters more than ever. And right now, the United States is making a very clear move to regain that control, not just for today, but for the decades ahead.